There's a type of person that makes others deeply uncomfortable. Not because they're aggressive or loud, but because they possess something most people have given up on. A mind so razor-sharp, so unshakably certain, so brutally honest that it exposes the weakness in everyone around them. Friedrich Nietzsche called this the will to power. And if you've ever felt like the world wants you to think smaller, dream smaller, be smaller, then what I'm about to share with you will change everything. Hey everyone, welcome back to PsychCore, where we explore the darkest corners of human psychology and the philosophy that can transform your entire existence. I'm diving deep today into one of the most misunderstood philosophers in history, Friedrich Nietzsche, and his blueprint for building a mind so powerful that it actually intimidates people. And before we go any further, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell, because this is not your typical self-help content. This is about becoming dangerous in the best possible way. Let's get into it. Picture this. You're in a room full of people, and everyone's complaining about their jobs, their relationships, their lack of opportunities, the system, the government, their parents, their past. Everyone's got an excuse for why their life isn't working, and then there's you, silent, observing. Not because you're judging them, but because you've transcended that level of thinking entirely. You've built a mind that doesn't make excuses, that doesn't seek comfort in blame, that takes full responsibility for everything. This person, this version of you, terrifies people. And Nietzsche will tell you exactly why. Nietzsche lived in the 1800s, and he saw something that most people refuse to acknowledge. He saw that Western civilization was built on a foundation of weakness disguised as virtue. He saw that people had created entire belief systems designed to make weakness acceptable, even noble. And he declared that God is dead, not because he was an edgy atheist, but because he recognized that the old frameworks for meaning, the ones that told people to be meek, to be humble, to accept their suffering, those frameworks were collapsing. And most people weren't ready for what came next. What comes next when you remove the safety net of easy answers? When you can no longer blame fate or divine will or bad luck? You're left with a terrifying freedom. The freedom to create your own meaning. The freedom to become your own God. And most people, Nietzsche observed, would rather run back to their chains than face that freedom. But not you. Not if you're still watching this video. Let's talk about the first principle of building an intimidating mind. Nietzsche called it amor fati, love of fate. This doesn't mean accepting whatever happens to you with a smile. That's passive, that's weak. Amor fati means looking at every single thing that has happened to you, the trauma, the betrayal, the loss, the pain, and saying, I wouldn't change a single thing because it made me who I am, and who I am is necessary. Think about the strongest people you know, not the ones who pretend to be strong, the ones who actually are. What do they all have in common? They've been through hell, they've suffered, and instead of letting that suffering make them victims, they alchemized it into power. They used it as fuel. Nietzsche said, "What doesn't kill me makes me stronger," and everyone quotes it, but almost nobody understands it. He wasn't talking about surviving. He was talking about transforming. About taking every hardship and asking not, why did this happen to me, but what can I become because this happened to me? This terrifies people because most people are addicted to their victim stories. Their identity is wrapped up in what was done to them. And when you show up with no victim story, when you show up having transmuted your pain into purpose, it holds up a mirror. It shows them that they could have done the same thing, but they didn't. And that's uncomfortable. The second principle is what Nietzsche called the will to power. Now this gets misunderstood constantly. People think Nietzsche was talking about dominating others, about being cruel or tyrannical. That's not it at all. The will to power is the drive to overcome yourself, to constantly expand your capabilities, to never settle, to never stop growing. It's the refusal to accept your current limitations as permanent. Most people plateau. They reach a certain level of comfort, a certain level of competence, and they stop. They coast. They maintain. And society tells them this is wise. This is maturity. This is being realistic. Nietzsche would call this the death of the spirit. He would say you've stopped living and started dying. The will to power means you wake up every single day asking, how can I be more today than I was yesterday? Not in a neurotic, never satisfied way, but in a playful, experimental, limitlessly curious way. Here's why this intimidates people. Because growth requires change, and change requires letting parts of yourself die. Most people are terrified of letting anything die, even the parts of themselves that are keeping them small. So when they see someone who's constantly shedding old skins, constantly reinventing, constantly pushing past what they thought was possible, it makes them confront their own stagnation. And that's painful. So instead of admiring you, they resent you. They call you obsessed. They call you too much. They tell you to calm down, to be realistic, to stop trying so hard. The third principle is perhaps the most dangerous. Nietzsche talked about going beyond good and evil. Now hear me out before you think this is about becoming a sociopath. Nietzsche wasn't saying morality doesn't exist. He was saying that most of what we call morality is actually just social programming designed to keep people controllable. Think about it. How many things were you taught are good that actually just benefit someone else's agenda? How many things were you taught are bad that are actually just expressions of personal power? Nietzsche divided people into two categories: master morality and slave morality. Slave morality is the morality of the weak. It values things like humility, obedience, self-sacrifice, turning the other cheek. Why? Because if you're powerless, these values make your powerlessness seem virtuous. Master morality is the morality of the strong. It values courage, creativity, independence, excellence, self-overcoming. It says, I determine what is good based on what enhances life, what creates growth, what expands possibility. Building a mind that operates on master morality is terrifying to people because you stop being controllable. You stop caring what they think. You stop needing their approval. You develop your own internal compass, and you follow it even when everyone else thinks you're crazy. You become willing to be misunderstood, willing to be criticized, willing to stand alone if necessary. This level of psychological independence is so rare that when people encounter it, they don't know what to do with you. Now let's talk about practical application, because philosophy without practice is just intellectual masturbation. How do you actually build this kind of mind? First, you have to become brutally honest with yourself. Nietzsche said the individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. If you try it, you will be lonely often and sometimes frightened. But no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself. Start by identifying every belief you hold that you didn't choose. Every opinion you have because someone told you to have it. Every goal you're chasing because society said it matters. Every fear you're carrying because you were taught to fear it. Write them down, look at them, and ask yourself, do I actually believe this, or was I programmed to believe this? This process is brutal. You will discover that much of what you thought was you is actually just conditioning. But this is necessary. You cannot build a strong mind on a foundation of borrowed thoughts. Second, seek out difficulty deliberately. Nietzsche said the secret of the greatest fruitfulness and the greatest enjoyment of existence is to live dangerously. Now, he's not telling you to be reckless. He's telling you to stop avoiding discomfort. Most people organize their entire lives around comfort and convenience. They take the path of least resistance. They avoid confrontation. They stay in their lane. And then they wonder why they feel dead inside. You want a mind that terrifies people? Do hard things regularly. Have the difficult conversations. Take the risks that scare you. Put yourself in situations where you might fail. Train your nervous system to stay calm under pressure. This doesn't mean being stupid. It means being strategic about expanding your capacity to handle stress. Because when you can stay centered while everyone around you is losing their minds, you become the most powerful person in the room without saying a word. Third, develop what Nietzsche called intellectual conscience. This means you don't just accept ideas because they sound good or because everyone believes them. You interrogate them. You test them. You think for yourself. In an age of information overload, most people outsource their thinking. They let influencers think for them. They let algorithms think for them. They let their political tribe think for them. A truly strong mind consumes information but isn't consumed by it. It can hold multiple contradictory ideas without breaking. It can change its opinion when presented with better evidence. It's loyal to truth, not comfort. Fourth, embrace solitude. Nietzsche spent much of his life alone, and it wasn't because he hated people. It was because he understood that the crowd makes you stupid. When you're constantly surrounded by other people's energy, other people's opinions, other people's expectations, you lose touch with yourself. You need time alone, regular time, to think deeply, to process, to integrate, to remember who you are when nobody's watching. The people with the strongest minds are the ones who are comfortable being alone with themselves. They don't need constant stimulation. They don't need validation. They've built an inner world so rich, so complex, so fascinating that they're never bored. And when you develop this quality, it becomes magnetic. People sense that you don't need them, and paradoxically, that makes them want to be around you even more. Fifth, create something. Nietzsche believed that the highest humans are the creators, the artists, the philosophers, the visionaries who bring new values into the world. You don't have to be a genius. You just have to make things. Write, build, paint, code, teach, start a business, whatever. The act of creation is the ultimate expression of will to power. You're taking raw potential and shaping it into reality according to your vision. This is godlike behavior. And it will intimidate anyone who's only ever been a consumer. Now here's the thing that Nietzsche understood that most people don't. When you build a mind this strong, you will lose people. Friends who can't handle your growth. Family members who want you to stay small. Partners who feel threatened by your evolution. And you have to be okay with that. Nietzsche said the higher we soar, the smaller we appear to those who cannot fly. You cannot build an extraordinary mind while trying to maintain ordinary relationships. Some people will celebrate your growth. Keep them close. Most people will resent it. Let them go. There's a concept Nietzsche introduced called the Übermensch, often translated as the Superman or the Overman. This isn't about being better than other people. It's about transcending the limitations that most humans accept as inevitable. It's about becoming a person who creates their own values, who isn't bound by herd morality, who lives authentically even when it's difficult. The Übermensch doesn't ask for permission, doesn't wait for the perfect moment, doesn't need everyone to understand. This is the ultimate goal of building a terrifying mind. So let me leave you with this. Right now you have a choice. You can continue being shaped by your environment, by your past, by other people's expectations. You can continue being comfortable, safe, and ultimately forgettable. Or you can commit to the path Nietzsche outlined, the path of self-overcoming, the path of amor fati, the path of creating your own meaning in a meaningless universe. This path is lonely. It's difficult. It's often misunderstood. But it's the only path that leads to true power, true freedom, true aliveness. Thank you so much for watching this deep dive on PsychCore. If this video resonated with you, if you're ready to build a mind that intimidates the weak and inspires the strong, leave a comment below telling me which Nietzsche principle you're going to implement first. And if you're serious about this journey, Subscribe and hit that notification bell because we're just getting started. We're building a community of people who refuse to settle, who refuse to be average, who refuse to apologize for their ambition. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, remember what Nietzsche said. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. Find your why and become unstoppable.